When did you miss an obvious hint that someone wanted to have sexual relations with you? Story 1. We just got back from our first lunch date and both worked at Chipotle next to campus. I lived in the apartments above and had just a couple of minutes to spare before my shift. Had to run upstairs, quick to change, and she asked if she could come with, and definitely had that look about her. I kind of knew what she meant at the time, but had to be at work since I was on thin ice for some unrelated stuff. I kindly declined even as she persisted and ran up and back down just in time to clock in like a Boy Scout. After that, vibes were definitely gone. I have Vietnam flashbacks to this day of what she must have thought. Ugh. Story 2. I was into the wrong tent when I was at the International Scout Camp. A naked girl was lying there. I said, "Sorry, I thought this was my tent," and was about to leave. She responded, "It can be, you don't need to leave." At the time, I just left. I've only realized about a year what was happening and my own creeping stupidity. Story 3. School fair, final senior year. I was chilling in the canteen area with a friend and his girlfriend. This really hot girl notices that I'm kind of third wheeling, so she calls me over to sit on the table with her, just the two of us on this table. We have a really long conversation about how we hate our art teacher or something, and then she says she is hungry, so we start working around the food stalls. We held hands while wandering around the food stalls, which I thought was weird, but didn't mind. On a side note, somewhere in the conversation while walking around the food stalls, she brought up the fact that she wasn't wearing a bra. She had a really small crop top on, and that was it. So, anyway, we get to one end of the row of food stalls, still not having eaten anything, and she just keeps walking. So I follow her outside of the school fair to a little secluded area surrounded by bushes, and she confesses she likes me. And of course, I didn't get any of the hints in the moment that she wanted to do the deed. So I just got her number and then we kept walking through the food stalls looking for something to eat. Later on, we went on our first date, then our second, which we kissed on, and then I think we kind of mutually agreed it wasn't working without actually saying anything. Neither of us were bitter because we still see each other every day and say hi. In hindsight, I think she had far different intentions that day at the school fair, and me not following through kind of showed her I wasn't ready for that kind of relationship, which I honestly don't think I was. Sure, I would have loved to do the deed with one of the hottest girl of the year, but I was very innocent compared to her, and I think it was truly for the best that I didn't realize her true intentions behind the bushes at the school fair. Story 4. So, my best friend started joking about us effing. I just went along with the jokes because we're both really effing weird and that's just our humor, I guess. A while later, she told me a few times that we could try out dating and see what happens, and that if it fails, we'll just stay friends. It took me 3 weeks after she said that to realize what she meant. Now, I'm dating her for almost half a year now, and it's effing amazing. Story 5. I have many such stories. As a young man, I seemed to always operate on the assumption that there was no way a girl could really be interested in me. The one that comes to mind is when I took a girl out in college. I dropped her off at her place and we kissed. She looked at me and said, "My roommate is gone for the weekend. I have the room all to myself." I replied, "You're lucky. I'm in a triple, so I never have my room to myself. Well, good night." Story 6. When I was in college, I had a longtime friend show up at my place, unannounced in the pouring rain, soaking wet, like soaking wet, as if she had just dunked herself in the pool. She was hot as hell and had a great personality, but had dated one of my good friends back in high school, so I guess you could say I unknowingly friendzoned her. I let her inside, she undressed right in front of me. I gave her some dry clothes and we took a nap. Nothing happened. Now she's a yoga instructor, still hot as F, and I'm not even friends with her ex anymore. Looking back, it's so painfully obvious how interested she was, but at the time, I lacked the self confidence and self awareness to make it happen. I have no doubt that we could have been compatible relationship wise. Still one of my biggest regrets, but hey, you live and learn. Story 7. In university, living in residence. Down in the first floor common area, hanging out with friends. I'm giving a piggyback ride to a really cute girl. She said, "Why don't you carry me up to my room?" I responded, "Guys aren't allowed on the girls' floor." I gave her another ride around the common room instead. Story 8. Some girl asked me if I wanted to get drunk at her house and watch her do Pilates. I said no and realized my error when I got back home. Story 9. I was a lifeguard in high school. Had a girl ask me if I could teach her mouth to mouth sometime and winked at me. I told her she should just sign up for a first aid course. Hey, you made it until here. If you liked the video so far, don't forget to press like and subscribe to the channel for more content. Story 10. A few years ago, I was dating this girl and I couldn't make heads or tails of whether she actually liked me. Her normal range of emotions ran from tepid to mild enthusiasm. I even asked her a few times whether she did, but the answer was always the same. She liked me, of course, and she would let me know if that ever changed. One night in particular, it's getting late and we've just finished a movie. We're sitting on the couch in that sort of awkward, well, what do we do now? Period. Similar to a long pause during a phone call. I sort of just shrug my shoulders and ask if we should head to my room for a nap. She agrees, and I take her by the hand and lead her to my room. This is when she perks up, a little more elated than I've ever seen her before, like giddy excitement. We climb into the bed, chat a little bit, and then I promptly turned over and went to sleep. Needless to say, for those of you who are keen on nonverbal signals, she had an entirely different idea about what the plan was. When I woke up from my nap, the disappointment on her face was visceral. And that, my friends, is a memory that perpetually haunts me to this day. Story 11. A longtime friend had come to visit me. We lived about 50 miles apart at the time, and after a few drinks, she insisted she wanted to stay the night. I say, "Sure, stay the night, sleep anywhere you like." Her reply was something along the lines of, "Is sleeping in bed with you okay?" I've known her for many years, and she was and still is one of my best friends, so the idea of sleeping with her honestly never crossed my mind. So, without hesitation, I tell her that's probably the most comfortable place, and I'm totally fine with it. I start changing for bed, but leave a t-shirt on as to not make things uncomfortable and hop into one side of the bed. My friend, who is an easy 9 over 10, comes into my room in just her panties on and says something along the lines of, "Hopefully you don't mind, it's kind of hot in here." Instead of cluing in at this point, I thought to myself, damn, she's right, it's kinda hot. So I then took my shirt off, got up, flicked up the light, and told her she could have one of the two blankets. No sexual intercourse was had, and I often still look back on that night and wonder, am I secretly gay or just a complete buffoon? Story 12. I went out to eat Vietnamese food for dinner with this girl I knew from school. Date was going great, flirting, teasing each other, that sort of thing. At one point, I jeered at her a bit for being late, and she responded that she was showering. I jokingly say, "Oh, come on, how long can that take?" She goes, "Well, I like to be completely hairless, and that takes time." That caught me pretty off guard, so I laughed it off in a sort of stunned amusement, thinking, why did she tell me that? Yeah, I wonder why. Well, we keep talking, and the date's still going great. Eventually, we leave, and I walk her to her apartment. We arrived, at which point I'm thinking this is where we part ways. As we're finishing our conversation, she goes, "Oh, so you can come up to my room to hang out? I'll just be studying." Here's where I do the usual guy thing. I think she's just being nice and say no. Besides, she's gonna be studying, so I shouldn't disturb her anyway. So thinks my empty head. I think she mentioned it one more time and I decline again. So we say goodbye and go our own merry ways. What really kills me now, maybe more so than what I just shared, is that I felt pretty self satisfied as I was walking home. The whole walk back, I thought, that shaving line and her asking me up sure were pretty weird, but probably nothing. I feel great about this night. So, yeah, a girl told me she shaved her intimate place for me, and I said, yeah, she's just being nice.